Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. As you can see, I got my Cowboys gear on today. Tough 19 to 12 loss. Thought they had a really good first half. Look, better team won this football game. 49ers were fantastic, or as good as you could be in all the situations they were presented in the game. I mean, the defense was great. The offense stepped up where it needed to. Brock Purdy continues to make no mistakes. Dallas's defense played a hell of a game. This is a 49ers offense curated to score a lot of points. Dallas's defense showed you, they've had ups and downs, especially late in the season, and some hiccups, but they showed you how good that defense was tonight. Dak Prescott just didn't step up and rise to the occasion. Neither did the offense. Like I said, I think it was a good first half. But 2 picks at costly times, and just didn't have it in the fourth quarter. Once Pollard went down with the high ankle sprain, they abandoned the run, which I didn't really understand. Like, Zeke Elliott's still a really good back, and that was a close enough game where you need to run the football. I mean, specifically on the second pick, 2nd and 2. Turn and hand that ball to Zeke Elliott, and you're on your way probably to scoring a touchdown and not throwing an interception. So it's tough, man. All the mental mistakes, the flags, the big, Diggs should have had a pick that led to a touchdown, I think. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a tough way to lose the season. Plus now, a little extra salt in the wound. I'm an hour behind, and I'm an old man. I usually go to sleep at 9:30. So getting up coverage and stuff from last week was tough enough. Now I'm an hour late, but it's been a tough weekend for me in general. As a football fan and a Cowboy fan, I was rooting for the Jags. I was rooting for the Giants. That didn't go well yesterday. Manchester United, who I'm a big fan on the Premier League side, lost a tough one against number 1 Arsenal, right at the death. That was a tough way to start the day. And then Bills, tough L. I feel for Bills fans. I'm in a similar spot where it's like I'm not upset. I'm just disappointed. The better team won. Just this tough one. So I really need this pick me up right now because I'm down, man. I'm down in the dumps. What am I talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat? We are getting ready to take a watch and then dive in, spoiler filled, into the second episode of The Last of Us on HBO. Now, right now on Max, it's listed as episode 2, but on IMDb, it was listed as The Infected, or no, not The Infected, just Infected, which kind of gets me excited. Look, before we get into this week, I do want to touch on a few things from last week. Overall, last week, when you look at that episode as a video game fan, I thought there were really great additions, things that they added to the stories, for Sarah and Joel specifically, in the beginning. The extra stuff that we were able to get, little add-ons you get with Tess's character, some add-ons for Ellie, and Merle is the actor. Marlene is the character. But some of those adds too, really, really nice things. But there were some major changes that I didn't necessarily call out in the moment. But, editing, specifically inserting some of the video game footage last week. There were some big changes, right? They consolidated a lot. And the changes mostly came around Joel and Tess and Robert. In the game, you go through Robert's entire crew and then chase him down and kill him and then find Marlene. Where here they just kind of stumble into Marlene's crew's kind of already taking care of everything. And that's a moment that I was, a little in between because it's a fun stretch of the game. But I think the things that they consolidate on, like that, and some of the other stuff, specifically with, the gap between Marlene and Ellie. Ellie's not with Marlene when that happens in the game. And Marlene has to take you to Ellie, bleeding and pretty hurt. So I could understand, some hardcore video game fans being like, man, there were some big changes that I didn't kind of dig. And Robert's, I think, the toughest one to swallow. However, when you look at what they added, I think those consolidations make a lot of sense. The other thing, too, that I thought was kind of interesting and sort of a major course change. In the game, when you run into the infected that's like attached to the wall, at that point, Tess and Joel are kind of working through a building that's filled with spores. Spores are a huge part of the game where, like, anytime you kind of usually go into an area that's been sealed off from everything, it's got a lot of zombies that have kind of decayed and died inside the buildings or tunnels sometimes for long periods of time that create spores that you can intake. And it's a really interesting aspect of the game because it allows for, maybe unknown infected happening, right? You don't get your gas mask on soon enough. Maybe you take in some spores. One of the interesting things for Ellie, she never has to do that, right? She's immune as far as we know. So as a gamer, like, the absence of the spores is kind of a tough one, but I could see this from two perspectives, right? One being that your lead, Pedro Pascal's face is covered all the time in his other major show, The Mandalorian. And maybe you just don't want to cover your actors' faces here. It's not going to draw away, I don't think, from the suspense or the things that you can do with the zombies. Although, the spores do play an element, with the bloaters. But I guess you could kind of alter it and still maybe do some of the things that bloaters do. Also, maybe, even though that body was there for a pretty long time, maybe it wasn't there long enough to create spores, right? Like, the area in the game that you're going through when you run into that body, the spores are already there. So maybe it wasn't long enough. Maybe the spores could still pop up. But that's something I definitely want to keep my eye on because I think that'd be an interesting change. But again, one that immediately you're kind of like, oh, but I think you could swallow it and understand what they're trying to do. As long as the story and you're still the story, as long as the story stays true, the additions continue to elevate that story, and your characters are pretty much who we expect. There's going to be some changes probably. We've already seen some, and there'll be others as we go through because you're making a television show. One of the characters I'm very interested to see what they do with is Tess. Tess's storyline is one that I could see change maybe a little bit. But again, like I said, when you're adapting, and I don't want to spoil things or get ahead of myself, but I think there are ways to do some things where you could make some changes to someone's storyline like Tess, but still get to all the things that you need to get to. So going into episode 2 now, if it is truly titled Infected, as it says on IMDb, it gets me excited because where we left off last week, where if you want to see my reactions and review to last week's episode, you can see them right up there. But where we left off, right, where you're in the rain, you just had that encounter with the security guard outside. You now know that Ellie is infected, but she's immune. Her bite is 3 weeks old. At this point in the game, have to work through and avoid the military, kind of get underground. You got to get through some buildings, the buildings that we see at the end of the episode last week with, where they're kind of touching like that section you kind of move through in and out of the buildings once you kind of get past the military. Speaking of that shot on Twitter, I saw this. Put this up. The clicker, the zombie that you hear screaming at the end, which is a clicker, is actually on the top of the roof, which was so freaking cool. One of my friends sent that to me, and I was like, this is why I love this show. It does things like this. But going into this stretch, right, you kind of work through there, and then once you start getting into the buildings, you eventually end up in like the subway as you're trying to work across the city. So we've just left the quarantine zone. We're kind of in the outskirts of the quarantine zone, moving through the city, heading toward, it's like it's not the Capitol building, but it kind of looks like a Capitol building, something like that, downtown in the city, where these fireflies that are supposed to take Ellie are going to be. So you kind of work through there, and then once you get inside these buildings, and then eventually the subway, you start running into zombies. So with the episode being titled Infected, I think we're going to get a lot, hopefully, from there. And this could be the one big zombie episode. I don't think we're going to get a ton of zombie play as we go through. I don't necessarily think we'll get a ton of action. While there's a lot of gunplay in the game, there can be a lot of sneaking and stealth in the game, too. And that stuff isn't what drives the story. But you do want those elements present. So if you go in, this is the section of the game to dive into the Infected, where I can see maybe that we see them move through some buildings, run into some runners, and kind of start to explain the different zombies. And then if you get yourself into the subway to get to the next part of the city, run into some clickers. That could be really cool. The other thing, when you think infected, is in the game there's a DLC patch called Left Behind. And Left Behind basically tells you the story of how Ellie gets bit. And I think maybe at some point in this episode, when you're traversing through the city, maybe we get to see some of the downtime that doesn't really exist for the characters. You know, you kind of just go from night right into day and you keep pushing. So maybe they move through some stuff, they clear an area, they find a place that's secure, and they chill for a bit, where the episode image on HBO Max is Tess talking to Ellie. Maybe we find out Ellie's backstory. And maybe we get that Left Behind DLC story from the game weaved into this episode. I could see it opening the episode. I could see it coming midway through. But I could see some kind of backstory stuff for Ellie, and maybe see, stuff with her mom. I'll be interested to see where that stuff comes in, where we see Ashley Johnson get to be on screen. Same kind of excitement I have for Troy Baker as well, but he's, I think, going to be later in the season. But yeah, I think we could see some pre-Ellie stuff, but I do hope we get a lot of like edge of your seat moving and running into some zombies and maybe some military folks. That could be the whole episode, although I do think you could see this getting to Nick Offerman's character that we'll get to eventually. I won't spoil anything, but I think that could the end of the episode could be setting that up. It'll be interesting to see how far in they go, right? Like if they go into the morning part of that stretch and hit some of those elements as they get to, as they get closer to where they're trying to get to. I don't want to spoil anything. But I think that's the stuff we could be seeing in this episode, and certainly the stuff that I hope they lean into, obviously, is the edge of your seat kind of really, not necessarily jump out at you scary, but like when you play the game, the clickers specifically, like if you're in a room, and that's one of these stretches, like you're in a room filled with them, the noise and the sound design could really pop in this episode, and that stuff has me really excited. So I've been talking for a while because I had a lot of things to say about last week and what we hopefully get this week. I feel fresh, though. I've played both of these stretches. What's nice, once you finish the game, which I did last week, you can just go to any of the chapters. So they're pretty fresh in my head. I think I have an idea of where we're going to go. The one other thing I think we could see is possibly Marlene. We don't really see Marlene's story while Joel and Ellie and Tess start moving. And most of the game, you don't really get Marlene's story. So there's a lot of chances to break away from them and tell things about other characters that we don't see what happens off screen. So I think if there's some addition rooms and maybe some small changes, we could see that around Marlene's story maybe too. So let's get the episode up. There it is. And let's not waste any more time, man. I'm ready. I need to pick me up. This show had me psyched last week. I expect to be even more psyched. Like for me, I think this could be the bar setter episode where like you really get an idea of what this show can do, both from a dramatic and from just like a world building sense. So we're gonna dive in to season 1, episode 2, which is what it's titled on HBO Max, but IMDb says it's called Infected. We'll see. The tee up for this 52-minute episode is after a global pandemic destroys civilization, a hardened survivor takes charge of a 14-year-old girl who may be humanity's last. Oh, that's awesome. They just keep putting the same synopsis up for each episode. I'm pretty sure that's the exact same one we got in episode 1. That's genius. I don't want things spoiled for people who don't know the story, because there are some cool places that I think we might go. But you guys have got the episode right up here. I'm ready to jump in. Whew, I need this pick-me-up. I hope this is a banger. Let's take a look at the second episode of The Last of Us. And, of course, I think I'm going to get a commercial first. Yep, we'll skip the commercial and go and listen to the official audio companion available on HBO Max and all major podcast platforms. The Last of Us podcast, HBO original. Here we go, the previously on. And again, when you talk additions, I think the stuff that they added and gave Sarah, what specifically Nico Parker was able to do last week with this stuff, great. And then also the zombies. Like I said, we haven't seen spores yet, but when a zombie is attaching itself, kind of seeing the fungus come out and transfer that way was great. This whole stretch with the chase through the city, I mean, so accurate to the game from camera angles and things, really felt that stuff. And again, Nico Parker's performance really tees up Sarah's death and her and Pedro. I think the only thing I'd say, especially as I was lining it up with the game, is you could have let Pedro sit in that a little longer than you did. It lasts a little bit longer in the game, but nailed that. The Marlene stuff here is great. Again, I love the ads here, especially here talking to Ellie. And just these back and forths are really good. But I'll be interested to see how much more stuff we get for characters like Tess and Marlene because of the actors, right? I think you could give Merle more because, you know, Dandridge has the ability to come and add more to the character that you don't get in the game because you're playing as Ellie and Joel. And Tess is another character that, like, I think you could give more to, you know, than what we get in the first part of the game with her. So I'll be interested to see what they throw at these characters. Yeah, I'm pumped. So here we go, baby. Jakarta, Indonesia, September 24th, 2003. So we are going to go back. I told you I thought we could start the episode with a little back storytelling. So I'll be interested to see if we get 2003. Ellie's not born yet, so I wonder if we'll get any Ashley Johnson stuff. Who this person is. Well, I guess this is where the outbreak started, right? There was stuff going on in Jakarta on the radio. I'm so fascinated to see where Druckmann and Mason take this story, especially when we're getting stuff that we don't get in the game. Oh, God, I love this stuff. Apologize about your lunch. No need. I was just finishing. Who is this lady? Excuse me, sir. I committed a crime. Of course not. But it's very calm. You have the right person. Ibu Ratna. Mycology. City of Indonesia. We have the right person. Oh, okay. So she's gonna be the doctor that gets the first look at this thing, maybe? Ratna, would you please examine the prepared specimen? She will draw her own conclusions. I like that. Don't tell her anything. Let her just take a look at what you're seeing. All right, how shocked is she gotta be? I think she's gotta look at that and be like, wow, huh? Like, it's gotta be like one of them, like, I expect a good facial response here.
Iya. Ini opio cordyceps.
Ophia cordyceps. Why did you use chlorazole to prepare the slide? These were samples taken from a human. Cordyceps, not typically found in humans.
Cordyceps tidak bisa
Cannot
bertahan
survive in
pada
humans.
manusia.
Yeah. They evolved. That's why I love that 1968 add-on last week, especially knowing the world we live in, where the world has risen in temperature. Like, the real science can apply in a way where this stuff makes sense inside of the world. If you feel sick, please exit quickly. Interesting. Oh, dude, I'm so excited to see what happens. And I guess from here, I would wonder how it gets, like, are we going to get to see how it gets to the States? Alright, so I don't think we have to worry about any jumpy jumps here. They put it down correctly. The bottom of her left leg. Yay, that's the scarring that comes around the bites when you think about the cordyceps is really dope. Like, say, I like Ellie's scarring better here than I did in the game. So he's like, what am I looking at? Is this bite from a human? Yeah, so that means there was another one. So who's patient 0? You can see it too. You can see how it was like starting to travel up her body. So I wonder if there's anything in her, like if it had to have gotten to her brain, if she was probably acting wild enough to get shot in the head. Ugh. Yeah. Oh, and it's ew. He's like, yo, I'm getting out of here. I don't Don't blame you. Dude, look at her hands. I'm in that mode. When I'm like having a day or my nerves are getting to me, I do this a lot. I feel that.
Jadi
When did
kapan
this
ini
happen?
terjadinya, Pak?
Kurang lebih
30,
30 jam yang lalu.
2 days, 30 hours ago.
Gimana?
Di pabrik tepung dan gabah di barat kota.
We're on the west side of the city.
Lahan yang sempurna
Perfect
untuk itu.
substrate.
Lalu
And then,
Empat
normal
orang
wouldn't,
kerja
then
dan
suddenly violent.
menggigit 3 orang di
4
antaranya.
coworkers bit 3 of them.
Kemudian mengunci perempuan itu di kamar mandi sampai
Locked her in the
kemudian polisi datang.
bathroom. Police came. She tried to attack
Perempuan itu
them,
mencoba menyerang dan terpaksa harus
and they
ditembak.
shot her. Or shot her. Good shot, man. Dead center. What happened to the people she bit?
Dibawa untuk diobservasi.
They were taken for observation. Oh man, are we gonna get to see it a few hours later?
Telah menjadi
Became
keharusan
necessary
sesuai dengan
according to
prosedur.
procedure.
Mereka
to
harus tetap
execute them.
dieksekusi.
siapa yang menggigit
Who
perempuan
bit
itu, Pak?
her? Great question. We don't know. Well, that's great.
Lalu pekerja yang
Are
lain
any other
bagaimana?
workers missing?
14 orang
14? Oh, man. Because that's the one thing. Like, even with the 20-year jump, you have no idea what's going on outside of the United States. So this is, like, again, great adding.
Kami
Brought
membawa
you here
bulan
to help us
kemarin
keep
untuk
this from
membantu kalian
spreading.
mencegah.
Seems a little too late for that, buddy.
Kalian butuh vaksin,
We need a vaccine.
butuh obat.
Tell you, that's another one of them things I think the show's doing well. With the knowledge of a world that's lived through a pandemic for like 3 years, you know it takes about a year to year and a half to get to like a working vaccine.
Jadi tolong
Please
dengarkan
listen
saya baik-baik.
carefully. Is that where they're gonna go?
Tidak ada obat
There's no medicine,
dan tidak ada vaksin.
no vaccine.
Jadi apa yang harus
So
kami
what
lakukan?
do we do?
Bom.
Bomb. Wow. She wastes no time. Start bombing. Wow. Bomb the whole city. And everyone in it. Yo, this ain't no Dr. Fauci over here, man. But I mean, I don't blame her. Like, she knows. Look at this guy's face. Oh, that was tough to say. I like that she kept her composure and then like only cracks a little bit.
Maaf, Pak.
Excuse me.
Apa ada yang
Someone
bisa
could please
kita
drive me
lakukan?
home. I would like to be with my family. Don't blame you. So I love that, right? Like, you want to contain this and not let it spread. The only thing you can do is bomb this city. And like I said, having lived through the pandemic, we know, right? Like, the immediate thought was, all right, we need a vaccine. Sure. But that is not going to happen overnight. And obviously, with the 20-year jump, you know, no vaccine at all, right? And it's, you need someone who's immune, I think, in this type of a scenario to get to a vaccine. Now, also, speaking of the open, something I didn't think about last week when it was actually happening, this is a great version, extended and a little bit more detailed, of the opening that we get in the game, and the way that you see, like, stuff spreading. So I loved how this looked last week, and then when I went through and I was editing, I was like, oh yeah, shoot, like, I just jumped right into the game. I wasn't even thinking about, like, the opening credit sequence of the game. A lot of similarities there, but I love this one, especially how Joel and Ellie grow up through the ground at the end. That was a good cold open. I think it's another nice additional piece that you get, specifically pre, and you can understand, like, 2003, bomb this whole friggin' city right now. They obviously don't do that and spread. So I wonder if we'll get more, like, if all of the cold opens will be some sort of jump back where we get pieces of, like, the beginning of the spread and how it gets to the states. But solid open, especially when the episode might be infected. Actually, this is something I thought they might do, right? Like, just kind of start the episode with them finding a place, not going through all the rain and all of this stuff. But I still hope we get to move through some buildings and get some of that subway sequence. That stretched the game so good. I like seeing how Joel and Tess are very
Do I look
We
like
don't.
I'm infected?
Show us your arm.
completely buy it yet. That scarring, like I said, is a lot better than it is in the game.
If we're out in the open city, why aren't we getting swarmed?
Don't worry about that.
Well, I'm gonna.
What was Marlene doing with an infected kid?
I'm not infected. She found me after I was bitten.
And she didn't shoot you.
Clearly not. She locked me up and had her guys test me every day to see if I was getting sick.
Test you how?
I have to pee.
Love Bella.
Would make me count to 10 and hold out my hand and then keep it steady. But you know, I think what really impressed them was the fact that I didn't turn into a fucking monster.
She is killing it.
Back there, you can find a spot.
Again, something else here that I like.
In here.
Some reading material.
Tear out a few pages.
Oh, not reading material.
There's not gonna be anything bad in here?
Just you.
Oh.
Stuff like this. In the game, you're moving. You don't have time to be afraid or think about, like, okay, can we trust that this kid is alright?
Maybe a hairline.
Oh, maybe he's
He'll
broke
heal
his
fast.
hand. Beat that guy's face to a pulp. Which I got killed in this stretch of the game today, where the guy killing me did that to Joel.
All right, we're still close to the wall. We sneak her back into the QZ. We find a different way to get the battery.
This is our best shot. We take her back to the QZ, someone's gonna notice her arm. We're gonna scan her, and they'll kill her.
Well, better them than us. You need to stop talking about this kid like she's got some kind of life in front of her.
They're nailing the early Joel stuff, though.
You hungry? You can share some of ours.
Thanks. Marlene sent me with my own.
His hand is really struggling. That is a big-ass sandwich. Holy.
Is that chicken?
Yeah. Marlene said I get it from smugglers. Guess not you.
Why are you so important to Marlene? Don't lie to me.
You take me back, you don't get your battery.
You heard that? Then you must have heard that he wants to shoot you. I'm gonna talk to you like you're an adult. Joel and I aren't good people. We're doing this for us, because apparently you're worth something. But we don't know what you're worth, we don't know what we have. So answer my question.
She told me not to tell anybody, and I'm telling the first people that
I like that. She does tell them in the beginning of the game.
there's a Firefly base camp somewhere out west with doctors. They're working on a cure.
I've heard this before.
And whatever happened to me is
Is
the key to finding.
finding the vaccine. That's what this is. We've heard this a million
Nailing
times.
it.
Ever.
Fuck you, man. I didn't ask for this.
You and me both.
Nailing it.
We need to go back.
Let's just finish it. It doesn't matter if she is
Yep.
or she isn't what the Fireflies say. If they believe that she is, we get what we want.
So the additional piece, knowing that they were gonna, the reason they're trying to get the batteries to go look for Tommy. I love Bella. Oh man. But yeah, the fact that they were gonna go to Tommy's anyway is an interesting add-on that we got last week that I think will enhance certain elements of the storytelling as we move forward.
Can I have a gun?
Can I have a gun? Oh man.
It's clear.
That's why I want the zombies in this episode in particular, is like the way that he's like being cautious and stuff fits for the world, but for the audience we don't really, if you haven't played the game, like you don't necessarily understand why they're behaving the way they're behaving outside of just generic zombie stuff, right? This is
Yeah, it's different in the daylight, huh?
just like the game though, man. It's wild. Like spot on. Also, Bella's reactions to the outside world have been phenomenal. Like, I need some soldiers to show up.
Fucked up mood.
Specifically a big ass,
where they bomb?
like
Yeah.
these big ass trucks that pull up. I could use one of those right now to force them into hiding, and then give me some zombies, and then move me to like where they're trying to get to. That would make me very happy right now.
So the state house is across there. It's about a 10-minute walk if you could go straight.
Can't go straight.
I mean, it's the long way or the we're fucking dead way.
Well, I vote long way, just based on that limited information.
Check it from the hotel first.
Yes, let's go. And I think, like I said, I think you could do some runner stuff, maybe some military stuff, while you're up top, and then give me the clickers down below.
How did you get bit?
Yes.
You know the old mall in the QZ?
Yes. Come on, show me.
The one that's sealed off and boarded up and no one's supposed to go in?
Whatever, I snuck in. Wanted to see what it was like. Didn't think there was going to be anything in there, and then one just came at me out of nowhere. Thought I got away, but
So it was just you in there alone?
Mm-mm.
yeah,
How old are you?
14.
I mean, you got some balls on you, sister.
I wish they would have jumped back there. I mean, we've seen shots of the mall, so I think that we're gonna go back to that bit of storytelling.
Everyone said the open city was crazy.
Not exactly like that.
You know, people like to tell stories.
So there aren't super infected that explode fungus spores on you?
Shit, I hope.
Fungus spores. Okay, there we go.
Ones with split open heads that see in the dark like bats?
All of those are real. But maybe... Ooh, yeah, those are some runners out there. I like the mention of spores with the bloaters. Doesn't mean that spores are definitely confirmed. But still think we could get them. And it makes me think that it's confirmed because, you know, it seemed like a very common way to refer to the spores. Yes, some of the watery areas. Water is also a key element to this story. So I like that we're getting introduced to some right now. Oh, that's great. Yes, the hotel. Do some cool stuff in here.
You gotta be kidding me. You ever stay in a place like this?
No, a little out of our league.
How do you even know what this is?
Have you heard of Brooke?
She's the best.
Well, I don't know how to swim.
Seriously?
Do you think we have pools in the QC?
No, smart ass. I mean,
It's not deep enough. Oh man, the back and forth between Joel and Ellie so far have been great.
This is so gross.
Yet she's enjoying I love it.
Ding, ding. Yes, sir. I would like your finest suite, please. Yes, ma'am. Would you like me to check your luggage? Yes, ma'am. Right away, ma'am.
So Ellie. It's so Ellie. Oh! As a skeleton. Like that little recoil right there. Like immediate response, help, and then
You okay?
Yep.
like that.
Fucking fact.
I saw Bella interviewed, I think, with James Corden. Maybe it was one of the I think it was Corden. Maybe it was one of the Jimmys. But she was talking about how what really helped her get her accent going for the English stuff is the fact that Ellie curses so much. Like she's basically cursing every other word. Very accurate. Let's go. I need some zombie action right now.
Well, when the fuck did that happen? Well, I mean, maybe I could climb up there, work my way around, and open it from the inside.
No, well, I'm the smallest, so it'd be easier for me to get through.
But you die and you, get, you stay. You can meet him.
That is an element of contention that should hopefully turn, because you do need Ellie to get into some places. Be interested to see if this ends up being a spot, because there's a moment in the game where, you know, Joel moves some stuff and they get through and then he's separated. So
you good up there?
Yeah.
be interested to see if this leads to something for her and Ellie,
I need a few minutes.
or create some time for Joel and Ellie. I like that too. Maybe we get more of that story now. But what I was saying is I was interested to see if they would split them up at all during this stretch.
Where'd you learn to do that?
The circus.
Her knife is very important to her.
Where are you from?
Texas,
What about Tess?
Detroit, it's in Michigan.
I go to school. I know where Detroit is.
Oh, they're so on the money.
So, you two, like,
Pass.
how'd you end up in Boston?
Pass. No more questions about me.
How long do infected live?
Oh, I thought you went to school.
It's really shit.
Well, some last about a month or two. But there's others been walking around about 20 years.
You ever kill one?
Yeah, I killed lots of them.
Was it hard, like, knowing they were people once?
It's a great question.
Sometimes.
Great question.
What about that guy last night?
Put the gun down.
the gun down Joel. Oh, that's great.
What now?
Not great. Ooh, the city. Nice. Almost there. There's a lot of infected on the upside. Gotta drive you below. Come on. I want to be in the
So
subway.
many.
The last time we were here, they were still deep inside the buildings. Then I guess enough people came through looking for the QZ. We went inside seeking shelter, and that's how they get more and more of the city, bit by bit, year after year.
Nice piece of storytelling there. I like that. Oh, look at that. That's wild. Rising from the sun like that.
They're connected.
Hive mind.
More than you know. The fungus also grows underground. Long fibers like wires, some of them stretching over a mile. You step on a patch of cordyceps in one place, and you can wake a dozen infected from somewhere else.
That's
Now they know where you are. Now they come. You're not immune from being ripped apart.
game line. Nail it. I tell you, there's been a lot of exposition. The exposition we're getting is great. That stuff was fantastic. And that's one of the things I liked last week, where you can add to that and build the world without having like to read pieces of paper or listen to recordings.
Fucking kidding.
Alright, so
Well, there's a way across from the top floor.
Well, then I guess it's fine.
I used to take it all the time.
what's he looking at? Spores?
It's bone dry.
Bone dry.
Could mean they're all finally dead in there.
Alright, so still no spores. Are they gonna put masks on? Nope, flashlights.
Marlene packing one of these or just sandwiches?
In the game, she finds one on a dead body that's like the shoulder ones that they have.
If we come up against anything, you get behind us and you stay there, okay?
Yes.
Alright, so I guess we're not gonna get any subway stuff. But again,
I have a spare hand.
consolidation,
Congratulations.
another piece of she asked for a gun multiple times early on. But another piece of consolidation, right? You kind of combine the stretches that you get in the city on the way to that. It's not the Capitol building, but you know, like wherever that golden domed building is, just in one location. But I really hope we get like clickers, and I hope this is. But even the interior of some of these places. This is a museum. All right, now I know exactly where we are. I was just gonna say some of the pieces in the background look dead on to the design of the freaking museum in the game. That's great, man.
Yeah. Cooked.
Finally, some fucking luck.
I guess we should have gone this way in the
Man,
first place.
all right. Pay attention to when they talk about luck.
Oh shit.
It's a fairly fresh body.
What the fuck did that?
Clickers.
Maybe he was attacked outside and crawled through the doors. I don't hear it.
Who would you hear?
Talking about clickers.
Who would you hear? Are you saying something did that? Because I've been attacked by one and it wasn't like that.
Okay, from this point forward, we are silent.
Yes. Let's go, man.
Well, no question.
You give me one really nice long stretch of this tense, quiet, kind of stealthily moving and avoiding zombies. Like it's something that you get in the game that like you give it to me one time in the show, I'm gonna be the happiest person ever. Right now, like even now I'm like just getting that like how you guys holding up, man? Easy, Joel. Oh man. I think you gotta be figuring here is if all this stuff is bone dry and they step on anything, they're probably fine, but like, is something gonna cave in here? Still being cautious, I like it. Game, she knocks over a vase. Oh, dude, sound design so important for a stretch like this. Right now, it's very good. Oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. It's a visual effects team, and set design, no, costume design. Sarah was wearing the exact same shirt she's wearing in the game, in the show. That stuff was great. I know this room from the game is, or at least they were taking elements from the room, so it makes me feel like I know this room. But yeah, I mean, wardrobe, everything's just going. It's so good. Come on, I need some zombies. Oh boy. That felt very game-esque. The push out of the way, the whole bit. That was great. Let's go. Oh man, these busts. This is like, it's so spot on. Careful, Ellie. Oh, here we go. Oh, look at it. Ellie, watch your back. Oh, the actors are so... I wonder if they got the motion capture zombie actors to come in and play some of these zombies, because that shit looks like it's right out the game, man. Oh, even the screams. Oh, it's so good. There's no movement. As long as you don't move, this thing ain't gonna know where you are. It'll be right in front of you, and if you don't move, it won't know. Kind of like a T-Rex. Oh, Joel the head. Come on. Oh, here they all come. This is so good. Dude, like in the game, man, when you're low on ammo, you do book it from these things. Try to create distractions. Buy yourself time. So I saw a tweet. Someone's like, the one thing they didn't get, man, is like Joel dying lots of times because he doesn't have enough shivs and throwing your... But low on ammo? Yeah, dude, sometimes you just run away and then you hide. So I love that. That was... Something you don't ever think about in the game is you reload all the time. Never think about the sound that a reload could make. Oh, this is great. Ooh, man, look at that thing. But like I was saying, very T-Rex, very a quiet place. Like if you're just dead still, the clickers can't see you. Not the same for runners. Well, if they got their eyes, they can see and they'll freak out if they see you. But they're nailing this clicker stuff right now. Chill, Ellie. Come on, find a brick. Give me a brick or a bottle. Just throw something, Joel. This is... Oh, it's so game-esque too, man, because sometimes you miss. Oh! Where is Tess? Oh, man, come on. You need a headshot, Joel. There you go. Now you're out of bullets. Here comes another one. Ah! Oh, there's Tess. Come on, find a I wanted him to find a shiv of some kind. Right in the head. There it goes. One more. Yep. Sometimes you... 2 headshots. That was exquisite. Exquisite. They crushed that sequence.
You're right.
Twisted ankle. Yeah.
If Joel would have made a shiv, I would have freaked out.
You alright?
Well, I didn't shit my pants. You fucking
Got
kidding
bit
me?
again. That does not happen in the game, but I like that you put that there. This kind of happened to Ellie.
Let's get the fuck out of here.
But when Joel stepped on that glass, that has happened in the game. You'll get to some spots, specifically in that subway station, where you'll be on like your hands and you're listening, you're hiding behind things, and you don't realize that you're near something where like glass broke, and you step on the glass. And I've died that way in the game.
Put this around your arm.
That was phenom.
Over there?
Yeah, I know, looks scary.
That
Whatever.
Was scary. This is
Yep. Little different line delivery, but there's a moment just like that in the game.
There's probably more ahead.
So we'll deal with it then.
What about the kid? Maybe the first bite didn't take. But what about the second?
How about you just take the good news?
All right, everybody's alive.
I like to think for once maybe we can actually win. Just go and watch her.
Hard tone shift from Tess coming out of that place.
Was it everything you hoped for?
Jury's still out. But
Still
man, you
got a
can't deny
ways
that
to
view.
go. Another right out the game. Can't deny that view, baby.
Come on, let's get there before it's dark.
Yeah. So take that stretch, triple it, like lengthwise, and like that's basically what that whole stretch of the game is like. So like I said, I think they've done an excellent job in consolidating stretches of the game, specifically with gameplay where you got to hunt people or zombies, and give you the vibe, you know, outside of the Roberts stuff. But like again, I think you're consolidating the right spaces to create good storytelling moments. How far? Are we at the end of the episode already? We got 15. I was gonna say. I was like, gotta be a little bit more time here. Probably about 10 minutes left.
Where the fuck are they?
Like this. I love where they choose to put the camera sometimes. Like coming in on Joel's feet. It's a nice way to make walking seem interesting. And you need a lot of these types of stretches. Nothing.
Joel? What the fuck is going on?
I don't know.
Nobody's home. Somebody was recently hurt.
Tess!
Come on.
Tess!
Dude, that staging is just like the game. That's nuts. Maybe not exactly the same, but like damn similar.
I mean, there's gotta be a fucking radio or something, right?
Who killed them? Petra?
No.
Ugh.
One of them got bit. The healthy ones fought the sick ones. Everyone lost. Tess, what are you doing?
Where did Marlene say that she was taking you?
I don't know. Just what?
Just west.
Joel, can you help me?
No. Tess, it's over. We are going home.
This is not my fucking home! I'm staying. Our luck had to run out sooner or later.
Wow.
Fuck.
You're infected.
She's infected.
Yep, just like the game. I wasn't sure if they would do it this early or not, because Anna Torv is someone you can see giving extra episodes to.
Show me.
In the game, you see her attacked by a zombie that Joel knocks off of her. It turns out that zombie does get her. Should be right on her neck here. Little this action. Yep, there it is. Ooh, it's not good. But it's how she knows that Ellie is immune. It's not even an hour old.
Take your bandage off.
That's why Tess wants Joel to take her, because she believes now.
Look. Joel. This is real. Joel, she's fucking real.
Just nailing it.
I need you to get her to Bill and Frank's.
No.
They'll take her off your hands.
Bill and Frank, yep. Thank you.
I never, ask you for anything, not to feel the way I felt, not to you shut the fuck up because I don't have time. This is your chance. Get her there. You keep her alive. And you set everything right. Shit, we did. Please say yes, Joel. Please.
It's beautiful. Here comes Bedra now. Oh, dude, look at it growing out him right away. Oh, here we go. He was infected enough to wake up all of the freaking runners and and see, these got eyes. So if these got eyes, they can see you. Oh man, it's another intelligent tweak, but serves the same purpose. And I think this serves better purpose than this be. It's military in the game that come at this point.
How many?
All of them. Maybe a minute.
What are you doing?
Making sure that they can follow you.
Fire. That's another thing. I need to see Joel make a Molotov cocktail at some point. This fire is a big one. Joel knows what she's doing though. Not gonna let herself turn.
Say who you can say.
Excellent stuff, man. And we're only 2 episodes in.
No! We're not leaving her! Get off me, you fucker! Not going with you!
I hope we get to stay. So in the game, we hear it. We don't see what happens to Tess. Not that I necessarily want to see this outcome for Tess, but I hope we get to live in this moment. Come on, you don't have a gun? Come on, Tess. Oh, because she's infected already, they're just running right past her. What is happening? What? No. Come on, Tess. Get that freaking lighter to work. This is disgusting. Oh, no. Come on, Tess. Light it. Please light it. Please light it. Yes. Thank God. Woo! Blew it up. That was so well executed. That was beautifully executed. So that's one you don't really get to feel at all because it's happening behind you. So, oh man, seeing that zombie freaking go in, like, even though she was infected, that thing was coming to infect her faster. It's little adds to the infected are great. This is where I figured we were gonna get to by the end of the episode, but I wasn't sure if they would have Tess get bit and kill her this early. Only because you have Anna Torv, who's did great, I think, for these 2 episodes. But that's one I'm not shocked. Like, or I wouldn't have been shocked if they lengthened Tess's time just to create that emotional connection a little bit stronger. But that tells you right there, this is gonna follow the game like pretty damn accurately. And if you're gonna change it, right, like I said, that's military that goes after Tess, and she just dies in a gunfight because she doesn't want to turn. I like using the infected in an episode that's all about infected. I think that was a great ad, and the fact that live guy, boom, gives you better vibe of the hive mind. Like, that was a great ad. And like I said, living with Tess in that moment really hits. And it's one that I knew they would get to. Like I said, I just could have seen it maybe maybe next episode, or something. Like, I could have seen it lengthened out a little bit. But that's what drives Joel to go do what he's got to do now, right? Like, that's his motivation, is don't let this be in vain of Tess's death. Let's see what we get next week.
Not today, you new world.
Yes. I'm so pumped for Nick Offerman.
My name's Frank. Here's the thing, Frank.
He's gonna crush it as Bill.
Every bum you talk to about it is gonna show up here looking for a
Oh,
free
good. They're
lunch,
gonna give them a whole episode.
not an Arby's. Well, Arby's didn't have free lunch for the restaurant.
Yes.
Sooner or later, there'll be raiders. They'll come at night, quiet and armed.
Call Joel.
Yeah, I saw that.
We'll be fine.
I saw that late night fire, and I'm wondering if we're gonna see a bloater next week. Could that be what comes at the end of that episode? Here we go,
Well
Mason.
before we ever rolled any film, we
Go,
gathered
"Look
together a
at
small army
this."
of people to work on how to get the
Yep.
clickers right. And getting the clickers right means that people who played the game will go,
That's it.
that's it. And people who haven't played the game
Oh shit. Yes. They nailed it, man.
to present the clickers on screen correctly. My feeling was that we had to make 5,000 decisions.
Yep. No, they did.
We brought Barry Gower in. Barry Gower worked on our prosthetics on Chernobyl. He's the best.
They nailed it.
We spoke to both Neil and Craig about the design.
You need different looks.
We started off with a lot of preliminary concept art. We were using that as a stepping stone.
So good.
We kept going back to the
'Cause
original
they're so
designs that
good.
Neil and his team had created.
There's no reason to change it. It's like what Gaiman and his team said when they were doing Sandman. No reason to change it.
Full prosthetics. I got tears in my eyes. It looked so good and it was so creepy and beautiful at the same time, and it captured a lot of the things we're trying to do with the game.
Love that for Neil Druckmann.
We found some terrific actors who were fans of the game and understood the movement.
Yeah, dude, it was perfect.
One of the changes that Neil and I felt we needed to make early on was the way the fungus would spread. We started looking at
This was a great ad.
these threads that make up fungus.
It's a brilliant ad. And it really ties into the game design.
It spreads through biting and saliva, but it also can spread through the air, through spores. And while that works in a video game environment, in real life, spores move around everywhere. And it's just harder to buy into the notion that spores localize and don't spread.
All right. Give me a good reason for why there's no spores.
Is sometimes it's like the largest organisms you can have in the forest. It's a single organism that can just communicate to different parts of it. Like if you touch a tendril here, a mile away, you could wake up a horde of
So
infected
genius,
that will
man.
now
That's
come after.
why I love Neil Druckmann being here.
This thing called the wood wide web. Fungus can communicate chemically over insane distances. They are remarkable organisms.
In the game, it was the military chasing.
Yep.
Now I believe it's actually
Yep,
more
this way.
dramatic and kind of interesting.
Love it.
She doesn't have any particular emotional connection to the world when she understands what Ellie is, and that Ellie represents some modicum of hope for the world
Changes.
that was always there, that is ready to come back out.
Torv crushed it.
There's immediately a light bulb moment for her that goes off, which is like redemption.
If they do this one thing, that can potentially save everyone. She can in some way be redeemed.
Crushed it.
And inspires Joel to move on with Ellie for just a little bit longer.
They really crushed this.
I thought it was going to be much slower, and I thought it was going to be like this magnetic kind of pull. And then when we came to do it, I don't know, it was just so...
Neil understands how to create fear.
Yes, he does.
And it's
It is gorgeous. Neil Druckmann's Fear is gorgeous. I love that line, Craig Mazin. Yo, that was perfection. It was the exact stretch of the game that I thought it was going to cover. And like I said, the thing I couldn't say at the top was like, you know, where they get to by the end of this is Tess deciding to sacrifice herself because she's been bit so that Joel can keep moving Ellie across country to wherever she's got to go, because that's a shot at redemption for all the bad things that they've done. And I really like the way they laid that out in the episode itself, right? Like how she's talking to Ellie and like, we're not good people. And like Mason said, like you see that shift once she's bitten and she really understands what Ellie is. And I like that addition, right? Like having Ellie get bit again. And it's like, because in the game, it's like, look, this is worse than what her bite was 3 weeks ago. Look how fast this happened in an hour. Nothing happened to her. Like stuff like that just really hits. One of the other things I want to just mention briefly that I didn't talk about last week, I have a feeling, because especially early on when we first meet Tess, the makeup is a little bit, you know, she's a little bit more swollen. and it's a little bit more drastic than it is throughout this episode, which is natural, right? Like that would happen anyway. But I have a feeling people, even though it said Anna Torv, might have been thinking Carrie Coon. It's so like, so Anna Torv is from Fringe, and then she was in Mindhunters. When she was on Mindhunters, a lot of people thought Carrie Coon was on Mindhunters. So I'd be interested to see how many people got confused there too, because it even caught me a little bit where early I was like, I want to say Carrie Coon, but I know that's Anna Torv, and like I forgot, like you kind of forget, like they look very, very similar. But speaking of Anna Torv, I thought she did an excellent job with Tess. Tess did get a lot of additional things, and I thought all those additional things really added to her storyline and gave, more for Anna Torv to do, but also really adds to the storyline decision of that flip, right? Like, and you see it in the game too, when she realizes that Ellie really is immune. Once she gets bit, it's like, you have to go do this, right? Like, don't let me die in vain. Go find that redemption. And that's one of the things about this game, is it's a real big redemptive arc story for Joel. And Tess's death is an extremely critical moment to push Joel into the next phase of the story. And Torv, like I said, the things that they added really allowed you to get emotional connections to those two characters, even though we don't get to spend a lot of time with them. And in the little bit that you get with their back and forth, when it's just the two of them last episode, like, even though you understand that there's a kinship and a love there, you also understand that there's, there are walls to that, right? Like, the world has really worn on these people, and that's something I thought Torv got across really, really well. And like I said, just from the storyline, like getting to where you got to get, that moment is something where it's the military chasing him. By that point, you've already gone through all the zombies, and you're hearing what happens to Tess. You basically end up running upstairs, and then you can overlook that area that they're in, and you see Tess has been shot after you hear it happen. So I like the emotional tie and pull of letting us live that moment with her. And then, like Mason was saying, I like the genius of the tweak on the spores, right? And that was one of those things where I like that Ellie made mention that the bloaters, could rip off like these little spore grenades, because we're probably not going to see that in the show, but that's a really good game element that probably wouldn't transfer necessarily. And that's one of the things I didn't think about with the spores, is like, spores, they kind of go lots of places. To keep it localized into certain environments like you have in the game, a little bit harder to buy. But having these tendrils be the thing that can connect them, and then using the hive mind concept, right? It's like a change or a tweak that makes a lot of sense, right? Because you have elements of that definitely exist in the game. And I could see how Druckmann would go, look, instead of using spores, which is going to involve like masks having to go on our characters, where you're going to lose some of the fear and emotions that you can get with keeping them unmasked. And just the realism of like how far spores could technically spread and how many spores would it take to get somebody infected. Use the tendrils, and then you can lean into the hive mind stuff where, like, I don't even think you could stealth kill any of these zombies now. Well, I don't know. I guess it would depend on like how the tendrils react. I don't like. It's one of those where, if you just kill a zombie, it doesn't mean they're all gonna start coming. But like, depending on where you are, there can be. It's one of those things where it's like you start thinking too much, it's gonna be hard to pull off. And the way that's delivered in the show, I thought was perfect. And that's the other big thing for me that I was looking for in this episode, and that's get the audience to understand what it's like to try to navigate around these zombies, and understand the differences, right? Like the cordyceps, even though they're adding things here to that lore in the show, like it's one of those things that make the zombies very different, and it makes the look different, it makes the way that they function different. And that's what this episode was, man. This was our zombie episode, and I promise you're still gonna get some zombies, right? Like we're gonna see zombies invade during the Frank and Bill stretch, and they're always gonna be present and around. But I don't think you're gonna lean in as hard as you do here, and that's why I like that they took a whole episode and really leaned into give us the lore, let us understand, have that conversation back and forth where Ellie's talking about the different kinds that she's heard of, where like they bust through your face, and then these massive giant ones that can like And some of that obviously will be true. And we do know there are these giant ones, but I think like the spore bit was just kind of like throw it in there for the gamers and then explain it, right? Like I like that you have Mason and Druckmann come in and explain why you lean away from the spores and lean into these tendril things, and it creates this beautifully gorgeous, horrific moment too, right? With Tess at the end, and that's the thing. Like Mason said, I love Druckmann's horror, man, because it is beautiful. And that whole bit with the tent, like that stuff ends up working really, really well. And I think design, they nailed it. Like they said, getting actors that have played the game, like to know and understand the movements. Those freaking clickers moved perfectly. Like, because they will click, 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 and kind of spaz around, and then they'll do this like, and like you could see them, like that stuff was perfect. And I thought they did a really good job, specifically in that brief section, of really getting you to the edge of your seat, knowing you got to be careful of the sounds you make, what happens, and like for me, the cherry on top of this episode is the moment that you see Ellie and Joel sneaking. Like, I thought Joel was gonna throw something to distract it, and it's something you do in the game, man. You hide behind something starts coming, you got to sneak around, or if you're trying to sneak up on a zombie that walks past, like you're sneaking around things. Something that happens in the game all the time, and something that happens specifically in that stretch in the subway. There's a lot of glass on the ground, so sometimes when you're moving, you're focusing on where the zombie is or how to move around to get to the zombie, and you're not necessarily looking at the ground. And you step on glass, and that's a game changer. And like, they nailed all the zombie stuff I wanted them to nail in this episode. And then I liked what they did specifically, like I said, with the Tess character, and how through exposition they're able to give us more about Ellie, more about the zombies, and at the same time, like, live you in this world a little bit more, understand this world, and get the visuals. I mean, the visual effects, like I said, the set design, the prop design, the character designs, like everybody that is involved in what goes into the look of this show. Like, good God, Boston is perfect. And that whole stretch through the museum, I mean, that stuff, like, some of those rooms are set up like just like the game. And I thought they nailed all that stuff. And then, like I said, getting the connective emotional bit for Tess and Joel that launches you into, Joel being, all right, I'm going to take this girl to the next place I got to get to, which is Frank and Bill's. I just thought they executed all that stuff really, really, really well. Bella, and I like that you got a section where they separated Tess off. In that stretch, Tess and Ellie get separated so Joel can go do some lots of killing. But I like that you get instead a moment for them to share some of their history, and get to understand a little bit more about where that line is for Joel. But also get some of that banter and back and forth. I mean, what him and Bella are doing are just so spot on to what's going on in the game. And it's going to make it so much more rewarding when you get to the point in the story where it flips and Joel starts to care about Ellie, right? Like right now, he's in that, I can't relive that terror and that horror and that pain of losing a daughter again. And Ellie, just by age and being a younger girl, reminds Joel of Sarah. But it's one of these things where Ellie's very, very different. And, there's a moment where you get to in the game where, like, Ellie's done enough stuff where it's like, she's not Sarah. And as that starts to become something that Joel accepts, that relationship is able to grow. And that's something I'm really excited about. But when you have an episode like this, where you're really trying to highlight, like, the zombies and the infected, getting little moments with the two of them that give you the back and forth and really make you understand, like, Joel doesn't want anything to do with this kid right now. And that is going to make it, I think, a lot more rewarding when he gets to the point where he really cares about this kid. And it's not because of the instinct of, like, what happens in the first episode where he's thinking about Sarah and just reacts. Like, he really will start to care for Ellie eventually. And it's one of the things you've heard Bella, like, in interviews and stuff, talk about, like, yeah, Peter, like, Joel doesn't like me at all early on. And I think they're really capturing that stuff. And it's just the execution of the characters and the world. And this is what I wanted this episode to be. Like, I think you're going to get better episodes from a storytelling perspective, specifically when we finally do get to dive into that story. Because the story that Ellie tells, in ways, is correct. But it's not exactly how that night goes down. And getting to see... That'll be the interesting thing for me, right? Because like I said, it's a DLC add-on to the game. So it kind of functions as its own section and where it gets introduced in the context of the game. I mean, unless it's in the finale, like I'm trying to think because we've seen the snow, so I have an idea of where we're going to get to in the game, plus characters that you know about. Like I'm pretty sure for gamers, we're going to get to Derek and James. That's going to be in and around where the finale is. So I suppose you could introduce it there, which is where it comes in the game. But I'll be introduced to see how they introduce that where and when, and what the reception is to how that story differs when we finally get it. But yeah, I think this episode did everything that I was looking for from it. And while last week I think was a lot more character driven, this one's a lot more environment and zombie driven. And I think that's important because for Pete, like I said, there was a bunch of exposition drops in this episode, but where they put them and where they're placed, it works in with the storytelling. And then I'm interested to see if the cold opens are always going to be something going backwards, right? Adding more to the story about the zombies and how this pandemic and this fungus and this virus spreads. So I really love all of that stuff. Obviously, if you've seen my non-spoiler review, you know, once again, from an adaptation standpoint, this is another 5 out of 5. But from a scoring standpoint, I went 4.5 again. I think this is one of those things where, again, this is like, it's so well executed, and specifically for what you're trying to do. But you don't get as much, like, I mean, there are additions, but like, there aren't a lot of great moments, you could say, in an episode like this for Joel and Ellie. And there are going to be really wonderful moments for the two of them. But I think this is a really important episode, and I'm glad that Anna Torv got a chance to be kind of a bit of the powerhouse, you know, and the driving force of this episode, specifically because it wraps up her character. And I think she's listed, I think, more than 2 episodes, so I'm sure there's going to be some flashback things that'll add to what that loss means for Joel. But like I said, I like that she got to be in there and kind of be more of the driving force of the story. And I really love the environment and the zombies and letting people experience that, because that's part of the game, man. Like, the game world, and something that I don't think always translates over when you go to this medium, but I think in a television medium versus a film medium, you have a better chance, is you have to experience stuff, right? Like, a lot of the game is not storytelling. I mean, it's storytelling in the sense that as you're progressing, the story is moving and you're adding to what's going on. But, like, you go for long stretches in this game where there isn't a lot of storytelling, and it's a lot of environment and living in the moment and sneaking around and being terrified of what or when the zombies could come out or making a mistake. And they really, really nailed that stuff. So, like I said, adaptation-wise, specifically with the visuals, I mean, from the world to the rooms to the clickers to even the non-clickers, right? Like like the runners that we see there at the end, like, visually, adaptation-wise, this thing is spectacular. But I think as an episode goes, while it was phenomenal for me, and I'm sure a lot of gamer fans are going to be like, dude, they nailed that stuff. You know, I think living and experiencing the world might not click for everybody. And like I said, I think from an emotional connectivity and an impactfulness of an episode, this is high on that horror end, but I'm telling you, like, there are just pieces of the story that are going to hit. And when they hit, like, you're going to know when you get, like, a 5 in this show. And up until then, I'm just going to keep them right at 4.5 because this is perfect for me. Like, you can't do this show much better to this point. So I'm going to shut up, man. There you go, man. 5 on adaptation again, 4.5 on the episode. I really love this. Tremendous performances. You really highlight Anna Torv in her last episode, so I'm glad you get that. You give an impactful moment for her. I think you did what you needed to do. Experience this episode and push that story enough that we're going to get rocking and rolling. And I'm pumped because I like that we're seeing, you know, a lot more Frank than we get in that stretch of the game. We spend most of that stretch with Bill. So I like that the fact that what we get teased for next week, I think we're going to get backstory. That could be the cold open in the past. I don't know if it'll go necessarily back to 2003, but sometime before 2023, we'll get to live with Bill and Frank for a little bit. That'll be really fun. I'm very excited for Nick Offerman. But yeah, I just love everything Bella Ramsey, Pedro Pascal. While this I don't think has them as front and center as they can be, the moments that we get with them as we're experiencing this episode, I think are spectacular, and they're just doing great stuff. So I'm gonna shut up because you know me, I could talk all day, all night about this stuff. And I'm gonna turn it over to you guys, man. I really want to know what you're thinking. Specifically, let's go to the non-gamers first. What did this episode and how did this episode work for you? This, like I said, is more of an experience episode. You're really getting to experience the world here, and specifically the world and the environment of zombies. Did you like that? Did you get that sense of constant dread as they're moving around, and did you like that? Like I said, you experience a lot in the game as you do stuff, and there's less direct storytelling. So did that work for you here? Could you have used more? Is it one of those, like, do you almost wish, like, this episode works if you give me another 20 minutes, like, if you give me another hour and 20-minute episode? Or, like, were you just so glued to the screen and grip? Like, that's the thing I really want to know is for non-gamers, does this episode translate to what gamers experience a lot through the game, and from an experience level is something that really elevates this game as you play it while the story continues to be tremendous? And then for the gamers, did you think that it captured that experience? Like I said, I don't think the show can do the amount of killing and fighting and back and forth that you have in the game in the show. The show really needs to be story driven. So do you like that we took an episode to experience and live in the world, something that you do a lot in a game? And I think that's an upside to a television show, right? Like for me, seeing Mason and Druckmann go, let's just live in it this episode, right? We'll give the important story beats that we need, a nice cold open at the top, let people understand more about the virus and this fungus and cordyceps and the zombies, but let's live in it. I love that that's their mentality going into this episode, because like I said, I think you got to focus on story as you move forward. So do you like that we got to live in it? Do you think it gave you enough to be like, yo, that's what that experience is like, what the game is, and what they, again, condensed, I think really came together quite well. And again, the tweaks and things that happen here work for me. So do they work for you? Do you see the enhancement in the story? And are you excited to see where we go next? And did you expect maybe a twist? Like, was Tess someone that you were going, maybe they kill her a little bit later on? Like, maybe she lasts a couple more episodes. Did you think that this is where this episode would go? And would we get to this moment this quickly? What'd you think of Anna Torv? To both gamers and non-gamers, did you think it was Carrie Coon at any point last week or while you were watching and be like, oh shoot, yeah, no, it's not her? It's just a funny thing, that I've seen. But yeah, I mean, let me know what you thought about that performance. For the gamers, again, did you like that Torv was front and center with Tess more in this episode, and you got more stuff with her considering her story was wrapping up? But everything you got, man, whether you're a gamer, not gamer, good, bad, indifferent, on episode 2 of The Last of Us. Let's see, did they give it a title? Yep, okay, so they finally posted the title. IMDb didn't lie to me. Infected is the name of the episode, and I want you to infect my comments down below with everything you got, man. Good, bad, indifferent, stick it down there. Look forward to talking to you guys. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out as we watch, The Last of Us every week and move through this show. If you are new, and maybe this is the first video you came across, when it comes to The Last of Us, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to do the spoiler review. Then I'm going to shoot a non-spoiler. I'll post the non-spoiler first. Then I will edit and get up the reactions. And as you've seen, I edit in elements of the game that are spot on and many times. You saw me go lines right out the game, nailing it, things that are going. So you want to be here for that type of coverage and add-ons. I don't really see that too many other places. So maybe that's something that you dig and you really love this world. You're like, yo, I like what this guy's doing. You want to show a little love and support too, and be able to get them alerts so you know when these things are coming. Well, hey, jump over there, man. Come join C-Maniac. Come join C-Maniac Nation simply by hitting that subscribe button. Hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the C-Mans Cinema Sit Down. I tell you, man, it was a tough day, but this show at least let me end it on a high note. So for the Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Oh, you guys are still here. You snuck up on me. You must be looking for more of this guy. Well, I got 2 video options for you, man. Right up here and right over here. And if you want all those C-Man goodies, well, hey, come join the squad right on over there, and I'll catch you on the next one.